Okay, so this next step is rather important. Again, this is the foundation understanding of how Photoshop thinks. Now, very important step here. When you're in a tool, any tool, move tool, or a key tool, lasso tool, pay attention to your choices, your options. I have a ton of options up here. Okay, so whatever tool I'm in, I have all these options up here. The brush tool is no exception. When I hit the B for brush tool, these are my brush options. Brush opacity, brush flow, work with a Wacom tablet, etc., etc., etc. Now, one of the most important things to understand when working with brushes or working with layers is something called mode. So the same blending mode that you find here is the same blending mode you're going to find here. Okay? Now, for those of you that worked in Photoshop before, blending modes are probably really screwed with your head. And you're like, I kind of get it, but I don't get it. So I'm going to demystify that for you. Now, here's how it works here. If I go to the B for brush tool, B for brush, not Command B, simply the letter B. Selects the brush tool. If I hit the return key, it puts me in the opacity. And I have different types of brushes in here. Pencil tool brush, replacement tool brush, and that's a Shift B, Shift B, Shift B, Shift B. Any of the sub-menus are simply the shortcut plus the Shift key. Right? Now, here's what happens here. If I sample this apple color by holding down the Option key, I want to paint the rose, click. Now, first of all, I want to be in the correct rose layer. I want to be in this layer. So I have to be in the Move tool for that. Hold out the Command key, click. Now I'm inside of this particular layer right here. I want to affect the layer. I need to select the layer. Okay? Very important step, guys. Don't think you're going to paint on this one, but you're really inside this layer. You're going to drive yourself insane. We don't want that happening. If you're insane, you can't watch my videos. Just kidding. Actually, you can if you want to. That's up to you. All right, so Command click. B for brush. Now, right now I have this pea green soup color, which I sampled from right here by holding down the Option key. Let's just make this a little slight. Let's make this more of this light orange color right there. Okay, now watch what happens. I'm in normal mode. Well, that's not what I want to do here. I don't want to basically spray paint or graffiti-ize the rose. In addition to that, I don't want this much of a soft edge here. I want more of a hardness here. So I'm going to go someplace right about in here, like maybe 80% hardness. And I'm just going to click back there. Now again, normal mode gives me this. That's not what I'm looking for. I want to paint in color. So therefore, that would tell me to go to color mode. Incident, once you're here, you just type CO for color, SA for saturation, HU for hue, etc., etc., etc. If you're a lazy person like I am, I like to know the shortcuts. So CO gives me color. In fact, all drop-down menus work the same way. Whether on the web, if you're on the web and you pull down U.S. states and United States under United Arab Emirates, just type United, start typing United, and it goes right to it. You don't have to scroll down with your mouse. You can just type right to it. All menus work the same way. Now I'm in color mode. Now understand the difference here. Okay, normal mode would replace the pixels with color. Understand vocabulary. Normal mode replaces the pixels with color. Okay, color mode. So if I come up here and I hit CO for color mode, Command Option Z, undo that. Color mode colorizes the pixels as opposed to replacing the pixels with color. Now you might think, well, wait a second. What did you just say? Vocabulary is important. Normal mode is going to replace the pixels with color. Color mode is going to colorize the pixels, which means it's going to keep its integrity. It's going to keep the shadow, the midtones, the highlights. I'm just going to zoom into this for a second. Spacebar, grab the page, move the page, and now I can just paint B for brush, and I want to paint in color mode here. What just happened? I just want to make that 70%. That's good. And I need to target this layer here. Okay, so now in color mode brush, now it's going to colorize the pixels. How cool is that? Now, what you want to pay attention to here as I'm doing this, notice it's going outside the selection because I'm actually painting the layer here. But one of the cool things we could do is we could lock the transparency. the transparency is now locked. So by default, by locking the transparency, it's not going to paint on the transparency. Look, it's not painting the transparency. If I take lock transparency away, then it's going to paint the transparency. Now, unless that's what you're looking to do, well, that'd be my guess, but that's not what I want to do. So if I forgot about locking transparency, I could have loaded the selection by hitting Command click. That would have accomplished the same thing. Okay, it depends on your objective. It depends on what you're trying to do. If you know for a fact that you don't want to, under any circumstance, affect the transparency, then lock the transparency. The transparency is not selected, therefore the transparency is protected. Okay, it's not affecting the transparency because the transparency is protected. Now, little production technique. Before you made a clone copy of this, if you locked your transparency, the clone copy layers would have locked transparency as well. So I can now paint with this color. Now that's one way of doing this. Okay. Now if you just want to put a little splash of color in here, I can lower my brush size by the left bracket key, and I'm just going to basically colorize this and maybe colorize in here a little bit. Now if you're going to do this type of technique, I would suggest going to a more fuzzier brush here. Right. So I would pick maybe something very, very fuzzy, because I don't want this hard edge. So I just want a nice little splash of color in here and a splash of color right there. Okay, so that's going to look nicer than go hard edge. Command Option Z. Command Option Z. Now, of course, I can go pick a different color. I'm in the B for brush tool, Option key. Here's my different color. And now I can paint with this green color, etc., etc., etc. Now, that's one way of doing it with the brush tool. Now, the brush tool is a great tool, but it's not a very quick tool. It's a lot of brushing back and forth. So I'm going to show you how to fill this with a color by not using the brush tool in our next video.